Hi, good day everyone! This is Sir Jet and welcome to another episode of the Contemporary World. Today we will visit another continent and see a snapshot of life in that place. And in this series, we will be learning so much about the events happening in every continent. And by the end of this series, we will have a big picture of what the contemporary world is. All right? So let's get started. Let's go to the screen and see what issue we have in Africa, which is the second largest continent in the world. As you can see, Africa is divided into two zones. This is a physical map of Africa, how it looks like from above, from outer space. Now, the green part, these are forests and grasslands, okay? While the brown parts are actually deserts. As you can see, this is Saudi Arabia, and North Africa is an extension of what the landscape in Saudi Arabia looks like. It's also desert. In fact, this desert is the largest desert in the world. It's called the Sahara. You don't say Sahara Desert because in their language, Sahara already means desert. So if you say Sahara Desert, that's desert, and that's funny. So you just say Sahara. And over here, there's a desert also here, a small one called the Kalahari Desert. So the middle part of Africa is not desert, but it's forest or grassland. So what are the zones in Africa? The northern part of Africa, over here, we have a desert here, the Sahara. So we call this Saharan Africa. So the countries here have a part of the Sahara in their territory, and so they are called Saharan Africa. And all the other countries south of the Sahara is called Sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, sub means under. Okay, so under the desert or south of the desert, this is Sub-Saharan Africa. So that's how you divide Africa. So let's talk about Saharan Africa. It's also called North Africa. And these are the countries that comprise Saharan Africa. So just a few countries. They are large countries, but actually not much is inhabited because the cities are there near the sea, the red dots, because over here is desert. Nobody lives there. So you have a large country, but much of it is not really used up for habitation. The people are living here near the sea. Okay, so we have the countries of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt. And these countries are actually very rich countries. So not all countries in Africa are poor. Egypt is a rich country. Libya is a rich country because of oil, because of petroleum. Maybe you have relatives working there, and they would tell you that these are very rich countries. Now, the people living in North Africa are actually Arabs, and their religion is Islam. So not all Africans are black, okay? Or not all Africans have dark skin. How the people in Saudi Arabia look like, that's how the people in Egypt and Libya and the Saharan African countries look like. They are the same nation or the same people group as the ones in the Middle East. They are Arabs. Okay? And they were just colonized by the British and the French, and these colonizers formed the boundaries that we have today. Now, their economy, as mentioned a while ago, runs on petroleum and tourism. So, petroleum, because they are like an extension of the Middle East. The oil reserves underneath the desert sands of Saudi Arabia extends all the way up to North Africa. And so they also dig lots of oil in these countries, and that makes them very rich. And for Egypt, they are extra rich because of tourism. Lots and lots of people visit the pyramids and other ruins of the old Egyptian civilization. And so they make a lot of money from tourists. So not all parts of Africa is really jungle or poor and having dark-skinned Africans. This is how North Africans look like. Okay, so they are pretty much Arab-looking, you know. So they're Africans. Now the Sub-Saharan Africa, okay, these are all the countries south of the countries I've mentioned a while ago. There are so many, okay, and this is how they look like. This is probably the layman's idea of an African. Okay, here's more pictures, and as you can see, the life is not very rich in those countries. There's a lot of people, overpopulation, and facilities are not really at its best. Poverty is rampant, and we'll talk more about that in a while. Now we will focus on one issue. Okay, this is just a snapshot of Africa, and we will talk about piracy by the Somalis or Somalians. This is Somalia. It's a country on this part of the continent called the Horn of Africa because it is shaped like a horn. And Somalia is shaped like a number 7. Okay, so they cover the coast of East Africa. They are near the sea. And piracy is a rampant business among the Somalis. Why? Okay, we will trace the reasons. By the way, modern day pirates look like this. They're no longer the ones that have a peg leg and an eye patch and a parrot on the shoulder. So those are the pirates long time ago. But now pirates carry an AK-47 and they wear clothes that are very modern also, and they have ships that are very modern and very fast. Okay. Now, Somalia over here has a very strategic location because it's actually the gateway to Europe and the Far East and vice versa. Over here in this place is Europe, and for you to go to Europe, you have to pass through the Suez Canal, which is in Egypt, located here at the star. And so all the ships going to Europe carrying cargo and people, you know, they always pass through this Suez Canal going to Europe, or they are from Europe going to Asia. They would pass through the Suez Canal, go through the Red Sea. This is the Red Sea, and into the Arabian Sea or Indian Ocean, going to the Far East. Okay, our neighborhood, that's the Philippines. And you know, there are some important ports here in our part of Asia. And they are Singapore over here, and Hong Kong, and Shanghai. And these are very busy ports. So many ships go there every day carrying cargo for the economy of the world. And you can just imagine the traffic of ships passing through this route. Okay, crossing the Indian Ocean from the three ports of East Asia, crossing the Indian Ocean and into the Red Sea and the Suez Canal to Europe, and vice versa. So many ships travel that path, and Somalia over here can be like a toll gate. You know, they can just block any ship, or they can just watch from their shores so many ships passing every day. And that's one reason, or one strategy, okay, that the Somalis thought of to make money, because they are on a very nice location. Now, we have to go back to history and see that there are a lot of firearms that flooded Africa during the Cold War. In our past lessons, we mentioned about the Cold War, the struggle between the communists and the democratic rich countries in trying to get as many third world countries into their fold or into their backyard. And so they would flood the poor countries with firearms to fund rebellions, to overthrow the government that is seated. Like, for example, you have a democratic government, you're a communist country trying to win that democratic country into a communist country, so you have to give guns and bullets to the rebels in that democratic country. Okay, there are communist rebels there. You fund the communist rebels. You give guns to those communist rebels, and then hope that one day they will topple the democratic government, and presto, that country is now a communist country. And all over Africa, there are so many countries there. That happened during the Cold War. So firearms were all over Africa. Now, the Cold War is over, but the firearms are still there. Okay, and then the connections with the gun suppliers are still there. And so firearms can just be picked up. There's I don't know if it's a joke or it's for real, that you can just pick up guns from the ground when you're in Africa. That's how many the firearms are in that place. And so if there are so many guns that you can just pick from the ground, it's so easy to put up your own private army and to be a warlord. And so in Africa, up to today, there are many civil wars. There are many groups trying to bully one another and gain control of villages, and they have lots of arms. So if you know some African, you ask them about the situation, they would verify. They would say, oh yes, there is a civil war happening right now in my country, because guns can just be picked up everywhere. And the people and the governments, they try to, they got so busy with this problem on peace and order, and so poverty becomes rampant. There are so many poor people in Africa. They don't have jobs. They don't have a source of income. And their government is cash strapped. What can you do? Okay, so what causes poverty? Probably overpopulation. There are so many children, as you can see in the past pictures. And there's so many people in a country, and there's not just enough jobs for everybody. So there's a big part of the population who would end up unemployed. And couple that with famines, because food production is not that fast compared to the growth of population. There would be food shortage, and that causes these things, causes poverty, and poverty causes these things. It's a vicious cycle. And so Africa is trapped in that vicious cycle of poverty. And so the Somalis, many of them, not all of them, I'm not saying all Somalis are pirates, but there are many people in Somalia who resort to piracy because they have a nice location, plus the circumstances that I have enumerated, put them together, that would equate to piracy. There are guns around you, you don't have food, you don't have money, you don't have job, and then there are ships passing by. Okay, so somebody thought of piracy and everybody jumped into that idea. Okay, now how does piracy work, by the way? These Somali pirates have fast crafts, okay? Little boats or little ships that are so fast. Now, the big ships that pass by their country are slow. Now, you can imagine, if you're big and heavy, you cannot run very fast. But if you're skinny and small, you can run faster than the big dude. And so that's the comparison of ships. Now, the Somalis would ride their small ships and bring them close to the big ships. Then they would climb the ships, okay, using ropes and ladders, made of ropes, and they would seize the ship. They would seize control of the ship. They have guns. Sailors do not have guns. It's prohibited on board, and the Somali pirates know that. So the pirates have guns. The seafarers do not have guns. So when they climb the ship, they are in control of the ship. They hijack the ship. They hostage the captain and the crew and the cargo. And then they would call the owner of the ship, usually Europeans, and they would demand money in return for the crew and the cargo. So if you're the ship owner, you would be forced to pay the ransom because you don't want to lose a lot of business. Your cargo is so precious, and the people who are running the ship are also your people. So you have to pay for the freedom of your people. And so that's a bad kind of business. That's piracy. And many Somalis find that profitable. So that's the problem. There are lots of ships that are endangered of getting robbed when they pass by the Somali waters over here. Okay? So, what's the solution? Well, if you want to avoid these troublesome waters, you have to just sail around Africa. And you would spend a lot of fuel and lonely days on the sea. If you want to go to Europe from Asia, you want to go to Europe, you cannot go to this troublesome part, so you go around the continent of Africa down here and reach your destination. Long cut. So that's costly. No choice, but you just have to pass by the troublesome waters. Now, the solution that is happening today is that these commercial ships are being escorted by British warships from Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is Sri Lanka, the island here. There's a city here called Colombo. And if you are a ship from the Far East going to Europe, you stop by Colombo, and then you would have an escort, a British warship that would sail beside you and protect you as you pass by Somalia until you reach a safe place here in Yemen, the city of Aden. Okay, so there's a city here called Aden. And when you reach here, you are already safe. No Somali pirates anymore when you travel the Red Sea going to Europe. Okay, vice versa. If you're from Europe going to the Far East, you pass by the Red Sea in Yemen, there would be British ships who would escort you, and you would reach Colombo safely. And from there, no more pirates. You go to the you go to the Far East. Of course, the escort service is for a fee. At least you are protected. At least you don't get hijacked. And that's the situation now over here in the Somali waters. So the Somalians or the Somalis at least have been controlled by this practice. Okay, so let us now wrap up. What have we learned today? We have seen a snapshot of the continent of Africa. We have seen the life there, okay, and how piracy happened because of the circumstances in the continent of Africa. Okay, so we'll end here, and in our next meeting, we will visit another continent and study another snapshot. This is Sir Jet saying goodbye and thank you.